This has been my position now for a couple of weeks, hasn't changed. Um, if Isaac is right, if Isaac is on his game and is healthy, I think he's going to be here, and I think he's going to be the right guard of the Eagles. I think Howie Roseman will keep his finger on the pulse of the trade market in the National Football League. If he is wowed or blown away with an offer, then I think the Eagles will be willing to trade Isaac Seumalo, but I don't think they'll just do it for the sake of moving him off the roster and or starting the future because Driscoll is younger and is going to be here longer than Isaac Seumalo is. I think it'll have to be a very advantageous trade for the Eagles to deal him. Otherwise, I don't think they're going to do that. Are we underway? I'm hoping so. It is Birds 365. Not a Mac and Mac affair today, a partial Mac and Mac affair, because John McMullen's going to hop on in about 20 minutes. He will be winging his way over to the NovaCare Complex to catch out the Eagles OTA. So in his stead, we got our buddy Jeff Kerr. We've had on as a guest a bunch of times, but he hasn't sat in the co-host chair in a while. JK, how'd your summer been?
Been pretty good, Jody, but I'll tell you what, my summer is actually going to start probably in about a week or so. I'm going to Vegas. I've got a couple trips planned. Going to Canton, Pro Football Hall of Fame, going to Cooperstown, Baseball Hall of Fame. Like to do that every year. So I'm waiting for that 6-week lull before we start the NFL season, get things really going. But it's going to be an exciting Eagle season for sure.
Today, as a matter of fact, is day 100. We count down the days until the first Eagle game of the season. That would be September 12th. So we're 100 days out, that 6-week period you're talking about, right there in the middle. You go to Cooperstown every year. Did you say every year?
So I decided to make a tradition to go to a different Hall of Fame every year, but I love Cooperstown so much, and I was only there for a day last year. So I decided to make it, okay, you know what, I'll go every year, see what I can miss or I can't miss, I guess I could say, because I've never been to a lake out there. I like to go golfing out there. So yeah, I tried to make it like a weekend, but last year was the first year I've been to Cooperstown ever. So I had to go back. I'm a baseball junkie.
Okay. All right. I was going to say I've been, but I haven't been in 20 years. So I'm due a trip up there. Good for you. Have a good time. All right. We're going to keep baseball to the side today. We're going to talk about football. I haven't had a chance to talk a couple specific Eagle things with you since last you were on. Did we have you on post the James Bradberry signing?
You know what? I'm trying to remember if you guys did or not. I was on last week, but yeah, I had to be on.
Okay, all right. So if you were on last week, then you got a chance to talk about it. No, you covered the entire NFC East for CBS with a lean toward Philadelphia. How badly is James Bradberry going to be missed by the Giants because they got themselves in a bad cap position, so they had to just flat out release a guy who is still an above average cornerback in the NFL as far as I am? How much of a price the Giants going to pay for their cap management?
So this is a funny story. My boss at CBS is actually a huge Giants fan. And the minute he signed with the Eagles, he just goes, Gettleman. So basically, they blame everything on Dave Gettleman right now, as well they should. And I think they kind of knew James Bradberry was going to be gone. I think they were hoping to trade him, but obviously that didn't work out. And he made a joke after Bradberry was cut. He goes, watch him sign with the Eagles or something like that. Eagles or Cowboys, and sign with the Eagles. And the Giants right now, Dave Gettleman has made so many messes with that franchise, putting them in, cap purgatory. I'll say the other one, but, we're streaming. So, but either way, they've had to make a lot of decisions they didn't want to make, and James Bradberry's one of them. And Bradberry was a good corner for them. In 2020, he was a Pro Bowler, obviously. Looked like a heck of a signing for him. 3 years, $45 million. And then all of a sudden, he was, not that he was terrible last year. He was better than Steven Nelson, but he wasn't living up to the contract. So I think that last year, James Bradberry didn't want to leave, but overall, the Giants just made a lot of bad roster decisions with Nate Solder, James Bradberry, a lot of bad free agent signings, and it's come back to bite them, and they had to get rid of him.
And that's to the Eagles' benefit that they were able to scoop him up for what I thought was market value, not overpay, no certain hometown discount, but they paid market value at him. They had the cap flexibility to do it. Now they got as good a corner tandem And I don't want to shortchange Vontae Maddox. You could say threesome if you so desire, if you want to count in the slot corner. I think there is in the National Football League. I actually think that's become very much a strength for the Eagles. One of the positions that might not be a strength, and Johnny Mack, as I said, is going to join us coming up less than 15 minutes from now because he's heading over to OTAs the first time this week. The Eagles will make practice available to members of the media. One of the positions that everyone will be zeroing in on is safety. It's not true practices. They're not going 11 and 11. You're going to be just catching drills and the like, but the safety position is a position of question for the Eagles coming in. How do you look at the guys? Johnny Mack has been leaning toward we might be questioning Marcus Epps because he wasn't a starter last year and Anthony Harris was, but he actually thinks Epps may be the most entrenched of the safeties. The young guys, the Andre Sacheres and the Jared Maidens, are these the guys who are going to be playing safety for the Eagles, or do you think there's still a move up Howie Roseman's sleeve?
So I think I'm with McMullen on this. I think Marcus Epps is going to start. I really do. He was very underrated last year in that defense. And I know he was more of the third safety, but I like him because he can line up in the box. And when I was looking up his numbers overall, and I know this is a small sample size, 44 targets, but for a safety, that's kind of average for a third safety. And he performed, only allowed 56% of the passes to be caught when he was primary defender, had more interceptions than touchdowns given up, low passer rating against. And I was kind of shocked Marcus Epps saw that because I wrote a story on him a couple days ago and he retweeted it. And I think, not like he's buying into the hype, but I think a lot of players in the Eagles secondary are, because Darius Slay has said some good things about him. Anthony Harris has said some good things about him. I think this is a guy that the Eagles, they took a chance on when they got rid of Andrew Sendejo, and it's paid off for him. And I think a lot of Eagles fans may be skeptical because he was the guy who covered DK Metcalf in that playoff game, that 3rd and long that Russell Wilson threw up, and Metcalf made the catch to seal the game. But I was like, why is Marcus Epps on DK Metcalf in the first place? So, Marcus Epps has been pretty good since really covering DK Metcalf in there. He's been slowly getting better every year. But you're right, Jerry. I have to agree with McMullen here. I think it's Marcus Epps, Anthony Harris. I think they're going to start, and then maybe Kayvon Wallace and Andre Sacheres. But there could be some improvements to be made there.
Let's look at the fact that the calendar flipped over yesterday to June 1st. It's still got an importance in the NFL, not as much as it used to. You used to have to hold on to a player till June 1st to cut him to get the after June 1st designation. A couple of years ago, the NFL put in that you could release a player whenever you wanted and designate him as after June 1st so you could spread the dead cap hit over 2 years. So it's not as big a day as it used to be. And it's also not as big an availability day because of that designation I just spoke. I think there was one player cut around the National Football League yesterday, and it wasn't a real big name backup tight end in Tennessee. It used to be the second wave of free agency started on June 1st. The second wave of free agency was one player yesterday. So if you're holding out hope, you're an old school guy. Oh, when the second wave of free agency hits, that's when the Eagles going to upgrade at safety. Didn't happen yesterday. Do you expect anything more along those lines as far as cuts go to happen rest of this week?
You know what, Jody? So yesterday, I think I wrote more retirement stories yesterday than I ever did. Ryan Fitzpatrick retired, Frank Gore retired, Steven Tuitt retired. There are a lot of guys that have retired this past week, so maybe that's what June 1st has come to be in the NFL now. But
retirement day, huh?
Yeah, retirement day. But it's fun writing about Ryan Fitzpatrick, and our last memory of him was shirtless in a playoff game at Buffalo. That's legendary stats right there. But overall, it's the only safety that seems to be rumored in anything is Chuck Clark, and the Ravens have said time in and time out, no, we are not training this guy. We don't have a role in our defense for him yet, but they don't have a role for anybody, according to Mike McDonald. So I don't think the Ravens have trained Chuck Clark. I think they just signed Kyle Fuller. But, yeah, I don't think we're going to see this big June 1st wave anymore. I think the next time we're going to see free agent signings, it's going to be, remember when we were counting down the days to Steven Nelson signing, or where was he going to go right before training camp? That's when you're going to see signings again. Because if you're a player, why would you sign right now? Why would you be under contract? You can be a free agent. You can bide your time. And look, I think guys like Xavier Rhodes are going to sign right before free agency. Guys like that. Maybe there'll be a trade or two in August. But overall, I don't think we're going to see much of anything, at least in terms of player movement over the next couple of weeks.
JK, the other position that we've been debating over the last couple of weeks here on Birds 365 has been the right guard position for the Eagles. Isaac Seumalo on most people's depth charts is the guy who's penciled in there. Jack Driscoll is a guy who filled in at that position last year after Brandon Brooks went down and did a pretty good job, but he too, like Isaac, ended up being hurt. They used a second-round pick on Cam Jurgens, who everyone expects to be the heir apparent to Jason Kelce at center, but Jason is still snapping the ball to Jalen Hurts this year. So does Cam Jurgens, kind of like Dickerson last year, find his way onto the offensive line by moving away from center rather than staying there? Of those three guys or anyone else, if you want to put into the mix for right guard for the Eagles, who's going to end up taking most snaps there this year?
You know what, Jody? This is kind of shocking. I think Driscoll is a better right guard than Seumalo right now, because Seumalo is better, next to Jordan Mailata. He's better at left guard, but they have a left guard and they have a center. I think Isaac Seumalo is going to get every opportunity to win that job, but last year of his contract, you don't have to restructure it. You can free up a lot of cap space. I think it's like $5 or $6 million, something like that. I wouldn't be shocked if Isaac Seumalo was cut from this football team. I'm not saying he will be, because I think he deserves at least to be the front runner based on his contract and based on his performance. But he's been injured a lot the last 2 years. And if Jack Driscoll's a guy who they like at right guard, and Driscoll's been hurt too, but they like him at right guard, and I think he's a better fit there. And I know he's insurance at tackle. I think Driscoll can get that job. And I think Cam Jurgens, I know they want to move him around, but I think ultimately he's going to be the heir apparent to Kelce, so I think he's going to learn the center position this year. In my Madden world, in every opportunity I would get to make Isaac Seumalo the starter, I do it. But if Jack Driscoll outplays him this preseason, Jack Driscoll's going to get that job. And I think Isaac Seumalo, he's going to start in the NFL somewhere. It just may not be right guard for the Philadelphia Eagles. It may be left guard somewhere else.
This has been my position now for a couple of weeks, hasn't changed. If Isaac is right, if Isaac is on his game and is healthy, I think he's going to be here, and I think he's going to be the right guard of the Eagles. I think Howie Roseman will keep his finger on the pulse of the trade market in the National Football League. If he is wowed or blown away with an offer, then I think the Eagles will be willing to trade Isaac Seumalo, but I don't think they'll just do it for the sake of moving him off the roster and or starting the future because Driscoll is younger and is going to be here longer than Isaac Seumalo is. I think it'll have to be a very advantageous trade for the Eagles to deal him. Otherwise, I don't think they're going to do that. And a maybe tertiary reason that I don't think Driscoll's going to start here at right guard is, and I almost don't want to say it, but the Eagles' offensive line, as good as it's been, and it's been several years running that they've been a top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 offensive line, depending on guys getting hurt and the like. They've got the talent to be the best offensive line in the National Football League. Part of the issue has always been injuries, and Lane Johnson has been part of that mix, and that he's not always hurt. He's not as hurt as Isaac, but he's a guy who has missed games for varying reasons along the Eagle offensive line. If you want to keep the safety net behind Lane Johnson, then you don't pencil Driscoll in as your right guard, because he, to me, is the unquestioned best choice at right tackle. And I know previously they've moved Mailata from left side to right side and plugged Dillard in. That, to me, is a mistake. Mailata is so good at left tackle. The combination of Dickerson and Mailata is so good. I don't want to break that up for any period of time. 1 game, 3 games, 6 games, 8 games. No, I want to keep Mailata on the left-hand side. Sorry to you Andre Dillard fans, which means keeping Andre nailed to the bench. But that would be my preference. I want to see Driscoll as the backup right tackle. If Isaac starts at right guard and goes down, guess what? Driscoll, you're into the lineup. But I would hope that they could avoid putting Driscoll in as the starting right guard, because I think they've got more uses for him.
Well, that's the thing, too. And I'm thinking Isaac Seumalo here. if the Eagles were willing to trade him. If you're Howie Roseman, you're saying, look, this is a starting caliber left guard, not just a starting caliber left guard. This is a guy who can make a Pro Bowl. That's one thing I like about Isaac Seumalo. It's just a shame that you drafted Landon Dickerson so high and he's played so well because you thought maybe he was going to be the right guard or the center, but obviously Jason Kelce left, Brandon Brooks retired, so now there's an opening, and I just don't think they want to move him over. And I think that's where the whole conundrum is. Now, this is what will be surprising today in OTAs if McMullen tells us, oh, look who's that right guard. It's Landon Dickerson. Isaac Seumalo's the left guard. Then I guess this is all for naught, but I just don't see him doing that. I'm like you. I don't think they should break up the Mailata-Dickerson pairing. But, again, Mailata has no problem moving over to the right side. So he can do that if Lane Johnson were to get hurt. And then that's where Andre Dillard's value comes in. But here's one I want to present to you, Jody. Who is on this team week 1? Andre Dillard or Isaac Seumalo?
I think they'll both be here.
I think so too. I honestly do. If Jack Driscoll is beat out Isaac Seumalo, I think they're both here, and the Eagles just have a loaded offensive line.
Right. And as I said in running down why I think the right tackle should be, the right guard should be where the right guard. I think Howie's going to be out there listening to offers for both guys. If someone blows him away for Seumalo, I think he trades him. If someone gives him a fair offer for Andre Dillard, I think he trades him. I don't think it's lack of desire on the Eagles' part. I think they're open to trading either of the two guys. But Howie also likes to, quote unquote, win the trades. So he's not going to give them away for less than what Jeff Kerr would think the value is on the open market. I think he'll hold tight, and that means that I think both guys could be here when the season opens, even though both of them could be on the bench. All right, Jeff Kerr's in for John McMullen. That won't keep us from punching up John McMullen. Johnny Mac will be heading over to Eagles OTAs, and we got to let him get on the road, but not before we get his thoughts. He's up next with us here on Birds 365.